Alright, what is up folks? This is episode 2 of Machine Learning for Noobs. We previously talked about the hardware that's useful and the minimum requirements to have a successful time running the various models that exist. Today, let's focus on the software side of it. Let's focus on what programming language I use. Let's focus on what libraries I use. Let's focus on the main frameworks and libraries that exist, and let's make sure that you have the minimum software requirements to move forward with the various models that I will be demonstrating. Okay, so let's talk about the programming language that I recommend you use, which is Python. Most models that I've worked with or seen or that are developed or that are popular are all written in Python. Some of them are C-based, but Python is C-based. So at the end of the day, if you do not have a programming language preference, Python is what you should use. If you do have a programming language preference, you can get away with using almost any language. It's nothing special about Python. It's just a lot of the modules, a lot of the packages, a lot of the libraries are available in Python that make doing machine learning a lot easier. The PyTorch website recommends that you use Python 3.7 to 3.8. I have used Python 3.10 with minimal issues. So somewhere in between Python 3.8 and Python 3.10 is what you should be using. As for package managers, I recommend Anaconda because Anaconda is not only a package manager, it's also a environment manager, and it is a tool that packages together a lot of useful programs for machine learning. Okay, let's take a look at the main libraries and modules get used in the machine learning space. PyTorch, TensorFlow, Keras. TensorFlow actually now comes with Keras, so you do not need to install them separately. PyTorch is standalone. Both of these are libraries that are focused on deep neural network. They're focused more on tensor operations, GPU integration, as opposed to the actual mathematical functions. So they obviously are using the mathematical functions, but if you are just looking for regression or clustering or some dimension reduction or anything like that, you're going to probably end up using scikit-learn. As far as picking, because you do have to choose between PyTorch and TensorFlow, I would recommend that you start with PyTorch. It's more used, it's easier to read, it is a little bit longer and less abstracted than TensorFlow, but it is much more popular. Tesla Autopilot, Hugging Face, all of the transformers are all using PyTorch. TensorFlow is Google-based and is just not getting the same popularity. It came before PyTorch, so most people have used it and have been used to using it, but it is going out of favor. I would recommend you stick with PyTorch. Scikit-learn, you don't have to use scikit-learn. Deep neural networks, or for using or working with any of the pre-built models that exist, but it is pretty useful for doing some of the actual mathematical or statistical analysis aside from deep neural networks. So you're going to use scikit-learn. You can do regression, you can do clustering, you can do dimension reduction, and pre-processing. I use scikit-learn mostly for pre-processing images. There's a ton of very useful modules specifically for formatting images in the correct way. So if you are doing image analysis, you are going to end up having to use scikit-learn along with PyTorch or TensorFlow. PyTorch actually does not use NumPy. It uses their own torch.tensor, but NumPy is also very useful, very popular. It already comes installed with your Anaconda environment, so generally you just have it, and it is a collection of modules that are focused on mathematical functions, like your trig functions, your matrix operations. It allows you to create arrays, which are usually not available in Python. NumPy is just, it has to be mentioned. It's very popular, very useful, and although you might not be using it if you end up using PyTorch, you should still be aware of it. Okay, so this video went over some of the software that I would recommend you install to make sure that you are ready to get started in the machine learning world. Python is the most used programming language. PyTorch is the most used deep learning framework. Scikit-learn is one of the most useful classical machine learning regression, pre-processing, model comparison. Scikit-learn is just an additional library that has a lot of useful modules that make setting up your data and analyzing your results a lot easier. There's also NumPy, which you may end up using for some additional data analysis because of its large amount of mathematical functions, but generally if you're using PyTorch you are not going to be using NumPy, but NumPy is extremely useful, extremely used, so it had to be mentioned. There's also matplotlib. There's some hardware accelerators that I didn't mention. Matplotlib is just a useful way to do visualizations, and the hardware accelerators are just another way to optimize your model to run faster. Matplotlib, NumPy, Scikit-learn, and hardware accelerators are not necessary, but Python, PyTorch, or TensorFlow are necessary. Make sure you have those installed. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. You know I'm going to respond. I love to hear from people. I love to go back and forth, and you help me, I help you by collaborating and advancing our knowledge. I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Peace.